Hello, everyone, and welcome to essentially a pilot episode of mine and my friend's new podcast, which we're calling Up and Over, a place where we talk about whatever, whenever. My co-host is currently not available, but will be for next episode whenever we get that recorded and up. This one's just sort of a test run, just to see how everything will work, just get sort of like the pedals moving on this sort of thing, because we're trying out something new, just as something for fun, just something to do while being stuck at home, because a lot of people are still stuck at home, like whether they're working up from home or whether they've got sicknesses. So this is just something we're doing just for fun while we're at home. I just want to cover a couple of topics today in this episode, nothing too major, just a mix of things, how the podcast will work, getting into the nitty gritty of everything, that how we're going to structure it, how we're going to upload, what we're going to upload, as well as looking into the NASCAR Cup Series playoff race this weekend at the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval race. So without any sort of further delay, let's get into it. So how this podcast will work will more so depend on when both my co-host and I are available, because if you can't sort of tell by my accent, I'm Australian and my co-host is American. So the 14-hour gap in between is sort of interesting to try and figure it out. I'll say that. But we've been figuring out something behind the scenes to try and figure out when we're going to do every episode. We've got plans for the next episode, which I won't reveal yet. That'll be a surprise. But we're just trying to figure it out ourselves so that way we can give you guys an up-to-date roster of when we upload stuff, what we're going to talk about. It depends on what we actually like to talk about as well, because this is a podcast for talking about just whatever. So it's going to be anything NASCAR related, like what it is today, or sometimes it's just about stuff about our daily lives, or just anything that comes to our heads. But we just wanting to talk about whatever, and that's why we started this podcast. It's more just to get our own opinions out about stuff, just for the fun of it. But now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this podcast episode today. The upcoming race at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Bank of America 400 at the Roval. Look, I'm not 100% certain on how the race will go, because of the new layout for the Roval, the addition of the extra the couple less corners. That specific part of turn 7 is going to be very interesting, because it's one of those corners that's going to look like either someone that's below the cut line in points, or someone that will be like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at Richmond, will send either themselves into the corner or send you into a wall. It's going to be interesting. Like, I understand why NASCAR has done what they've done with it. They've changed it on purpose to try and give some more entertainment value, and I can understand that to a certain degree. But when it's a key moment of the playoffs, when you're sending 12 drivers in, 8 drivers will come out. I don't know. I really wish they'd bring back the oval, the 500 that they used to have, where you have the Coke 600 in the regular season, then you have the Bank of America 500 on the oval. It just made sense, especially with how these road course packages are nowadays. I feel like this next gen car could be better on road courses, and I feel like that's what NASCAR has done with this new layout of the Roval. They're trying to give it more of a sports car feel, rather than something super tight and super precise that you need to be heavy on braking and heavy with turning, because that's what the old layout looked like, and that's what it was better for the Gen 6. The Gen 6 is not the greatest car in the world, I'll admit that. It had its problems, especially with NASCAR tampering with the 550 horsepower package. Oh, God. But the 550 horsepower package aside, the road course cars and the short track cars were good with the Gen 6. They actually felt like cars. Whereas this, well, not like cars, but they felt like they were easier to put on a better show. Whereas these ones, they're better on the intermediates and super speedways, and they're not so good on the road courses and the short tracks. Now, I've heard a lot of complaints about last week's race at Talladega, about it being boring. How is it? That's the one thing I'm thinking. Like, how is that boring? How is 4 wide around the 2.66 miles super speedway in Lincoln, Alabama. How is that boring? I understand some very controversial calls, like the fact the 6 and the 17 were penalised for the the roof rails being missing, or the fact the 47 wasn't penalised for part of the foam in his door completely gone. But a lot of playoff drivers were sort of screwed in that race. But one thing I also want to think about, the DVP thing with Chase Briscoe and Chase Elliott being brought back to pit road instead of to the garage, like what Josh Berry was last week in Kansas, and then what Ryan Blaney was also at Watkins Glen a couple of weeks ago. Where's the line? Where's the line for that? Like, it's just there's got to be some kind of like consistency. Like, I know Elton Sawyer came out and said, we've got to try and make up for our mistake from last week because we realized that the situation with the 4-car was that he only had flat tires and we brought him in as if he had damage. I can understand that to a certain degree, but when you decide to change your rules in the middle of the playoffs, when it affects people's seasons, whether this rule consists or not, like last week, the 4 team all agreed that yes, it sucks, but these are the rules set by NASCAR. And then they go out this week and they change the rules to be, we've got a couple of playoff drivers that, we can get them back onto pit road. They'll be able to fix it. I don't know. You got to just try and figure it out as best. I guess I got to try and figure it out as best I can. But at the same time, where's the consistency? Now, I want to talk about a couple of the round of 12 drivers. The only person that is locked in so far for the next round is William Byron, who is plus 73 above the cut line. He earned that for being third place last weekend out. As a Byron fan, I'm happy. It'll be nice to see him just focus on the round of 8 now, but I don't really have much else to say on Byron. A couple of people I want to talk about, the guys below the cut line. Logano, Suarez, Cindric, and Briscoe. Look, I don't have confidence in a lot of them. I really don't. I feel like they more are going to be they're still going to be outsiders looking at. Like Cindric and Briscoe, they're both good road racers. They both won a decent amount of road races in Xfinity, or they're at least competitive in those ones. Suarez won the Roval Sonoma race in 2022, and Logano, I think the last road course race he won was like 2017, 2018 at Watkins Glen. But he has finished second in this race, and he actually does have a pretty decent average of 8.7 at this track, which that's a good thing, but I don't know, unless he's had speed at the super speedways, which he did at Atlanta, which is the reason why he won, and at Talladega he did have speed, but I don't know, that big one with 5 to go was just that sort of screwed Logano a little bit because it basically took his chances and flushed him down the toilet. The way he's going to have to make his way into the next round, because I know Danny Hamlin listed on his podcast Actions Detrimental, he was saying that a minus 13 deficit is not as bad as people could think, and yeah, fair enough. I mean, I understand that. Like, minus 13 is not that big a deal, especially with stages. They can pay out at least 20 points. That would be at least enough. But that's if you're running up front, especially when you've got drivers that are in the playoffs that know how to run road courses, as well as the guys that aren't in there that do as well. That's a pretty tough challenge. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's a tougher challenge for guys like Logano and Cindric and Suarez and Chase Briscoe. I'm pretty sure all of them are going to need to try and win this race. They're all kind of in a must-win situation. I think Logano is the only one that can sort of point his way in, but they're going to have to try and win that race in order to do that. A couple of the drivers that are sort of scaring me because they're actually part of my championship picks. Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick, both very low on the cut line, plus 14 and plus 13. I'm sort of scared because they could run really well. Like, Chase Elliott is multi-time winner here, and Tyler Reddick is the second best road course racer in the next gen era. But I don't know, going into last week at Talladega, Reddick was below the cut line. You don't want that from your regular season champion. It's going to be interesting because, like I said, Elliott's won here multiple times. He's consistently fast. Reddick is really quick on these road courses as well. He's proved that ever through everything with RCR and now at 2311. They both just need to keep their noses clean. I feel like that's all they need to do in order to be able to move on. Before I move on to some of my more higher picks that I feel like are going to do better with talking about the playoff drivers, I'll move on to sort of collectively both of these put in here together, Ryan Blaney and Denny Hamlin. Hamlin is not a great road course racer. He's really not. That's the nicest thing I could say about it. I don't know. He hasn't proven that he has the winning speed on road courses. He's consistent, but he's always got problems after problems after problems, whether it's himself or getting caught up in a wreck or a strategy call that he made up for that failed strategy attempt at Atlanta by finishing 10th at Talladega. So that's one thing that we can't really sort of give him anything for anymore, because it's sort of he made up for the one mistake that cost him, but he's got a decent points cushion, but I don't think it's going to be enough to just be able to fall back on that. And Ryan Blaney, I know he won the inaugural race at this track, but I'm still kind of haunted by the wreck from Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex. I hated that. As a Jimmy fan, I hated that. Yeah, Ryan Blaney won that inaugural race, but I'll be interested to see how he does, because after wrecking out from Bowman last week, not of anybody's fault, it was just hard racing at the end of the stage, at least from what I was watching. I feel like Ryan Blaney is going to have a really consistent points day in order to be able to get his way through, because he's still up there in the points. Like he's not at a point where he's got to worry about his point situation, but he's also not in a case where he can just cruise through the turns on Sunday. Speaking of Alex Bowman, he's my underdog pick. This year's Chicago Street Course winner, Alex Bowman, I feel like he's going to have a really solid day. I mean, he's one of the greatest racers in the Cup Series right now. He's one of the greatest that's finished strongly at every single Charlotte Roval race that he's ran, except for 2022 with the back injury from Texas. That's where Noah Gragson stood in for him. But every single other race that he's ran at this configuration, he hasn't finished worse than 10th. He started, I think the worst was 16th last year, but that's not really saying much, because last year was actually sort of a downward spiral because of the injury he came back from. Like Eric Jones has had the back injury he's had since Talladega in the spring. I had to think of that for a second. Like different seasons. Yeah, Talladega in the spring, and he's been suffering with that for the rest of this year. He came back after 2 races, which still is incredible, but he's also not been as good as he has been. I know Legacy has not been the greatest team the last couple of years, and unfortunately, when it was Petty GMS, that was their best time, because next gen car was brand new. No one had sort of figured it out fully yet, which is why Jones was able to win Darlington, because it's a track he already knew how to win. But back to Bowman. The man's got a 6.8 average finish, a best finish a second, a couple of top 5s, and he's also got a 26-point gap on the cut line. So I've got a good feeling on Bowman. I don't have a good feeling on him starting well. I've got a feeling he may sort of linger in the first, let's say, stage or 2, but then come back to the better end of stage 3 and just floor everyone. I'm not going to say he's going to win, because I don't see Bowman winning this race. There's people that are much better road course racers than he is, but given his incredible stats on this racetrack, I won't be surprised. And actually, I did see something. A person on X put this up, and if this person is listening to this or watching this, if this goes up on YouTube, I apologize. I genuinely don't remember what your username was, but that Alex Bowman so far in the playoffs for this season has had almost the exact same finishes as Ryan Blaney from last year, who won the championship. So I'm not saying anything on a Bowman championship, but I mean, it would be very interesting to see that because of the amount of fact that everyone's saying that Bowman should be replaced by Raja Karuth or Justin Haley or just Bowman should be out of the 48. Why? He's won a race. He's not as higher up in the points or not as leading as much as Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, William Byron, but it doesn't mean he's not He's not one of the best drivers. He's just not as prominent. And last of the playoff drivers I want to talk about before going into some non-playoff ones. Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell, both previous winners here in 2021 and 2022 respectively. These two, they have been very checkers or wreckers. Let's admit that. They've been very checkers or wreckers this year. They've won multiple races. Kyle Larson leading the field with 5 wins this year so far, has also got a lot of DNFs. He really has to, I don't know, especially at this time, he's got to try and pull his act together. Like, he knows how to drive a car. He really knows how to drive anything with 4 wheels or probably 2 wheels. That would be interesting to see him drive like MotoGP or something. But he needs to try and pull in the amount of DNFs, especially at this time where all points are crucial. Like, he finished, I think, 2nd or 3rd in the regular season standings. So, no, 2nd, because he finished behind Tyler Reddick by 1 point. So he doesn't have that massive amount of points cushion anymore. But it's enough where, as long as he has a solid day, I feel like he'll make his way through. And same with Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell's sitting 3rd right now. No, sorry, Kyle Larson sitting 3rd in the playoff points right now, heading into the Roval. Christopher Bell sitting 2nd. I feel like Christopher Bell just needs to have a solid day as well. Both drivers are capable of winning this race by multiple laps, so it's easy enough for them to just, I don't know, sort of calmly go through the race and just make sure to stay out front. Because as long as you don't get caught up in a lot of those backmarker crashes, then you should be fine. I wanted to bring up some other road course races that I sort of wanted to just bring up a couple of other people just to try and throw some extra luck in for everybody else to try and keep that thing going where we've got 18 different winners so far, 18 first-time winners so far in this year, and we'd like to see it keep going. I mean, we'd love to see Kyle Busch come back to victory lane sometime this season, but I don't see it happening this weekend at the Roval. But there's a couple others that I feel like they could. Colleague teammates SVG and AJ Allmendinger. I believe this is SVG's first time around the Charlotte Roval, so it'll be interesting for him to see what he does in the Xfinity race, especially since he is actually below the cut line is in his series. It would be fun to see that race on the Saturday to see whether he actually can make his way through to the round of 8 or not. And AJ Allmendinger as well, fighting for his first win for this year in the minimum amount of starts he's got in Cup. Both drivers are really great on road courses, but Colleague equipment in the Xfinity Series is good for SEG and AJ, whereas everyone else, not so much. And then Colleague equipment in Cup, I don't know, you sort of forget that Colleague is even out there now. Like a couple of years ago, they were they were a hot prospect team coming into the Cup Series, like with AJ more specifically, like him winning at the Indy Roval and bringing a lot of the hype to Colleague in Cup because of him. And then last year wins actually the Roval last year, where AJ won the Roval last year, and then gets demoted back down to Xfinity for Daniel Hemrick. I don't understand the choices of that. I still don't. I know AJ's a team player, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure even going through his mind is like, why am I getting put back down when I'm a proven Cup winner and Daniel Hemrick, who's only won 1 race in his career? To be fair, it was the race that counted. I'll admit that. Like, Daniel Hemrick won that race in Xfinity but he still won the race that counted. But AJ's a proven road course winner and can win, a Cup race or 2 in the regular season to make the playoffs at least every now and again. But I'm not sure. I understand it's money related, and like I said, AJ's a team player. He's willing to do whatever it takes because he believes in the Colleague system. So I hope that he gets his fair shot at Cup again, and hopefully stays there this time. But one other driver I wanted to bring up, the Watkins Glen winner from a couple of weeks ago, Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher, from joining RFK, or joining Roush Fenway, sorry, in 2020, has been on a strong increase in speed. And then when Brad Keselowski came in 2022, they've been pretty good there as well. And then last year, Brad and Chris were both on a tear. And then this year, I don't know, they sort of cut back a little. Not intentionally, but I feel like they've just sort of got off that hype train that they were on last year, and they've sort of mellowed out. Like Brad at Darlington earlier in the year was pretty cool to see that Castrol dark horse in victory lane finally getting that monkey off Brad's back. But it was good to also see Chris Buescher run well at Watkins Glen and also win that race in a thrilling battle against SVG. It almost basically felt like we were watching Marcus Ambrose and Brad Keselowski again from 12 years ago. Except now we have the Brad Keselowski car, essentially, beating the Australian V8 Supercar champion. I know Van Gisbergen is New Zealander, but I'm just saying because that series is Australian. Other than that, I don't really have a winner prediction at the moment, just because this race is too far away from the time I'm recording this. So I don't want to really guess anything just yet because I could be wrong. I kind of want to see who's going to qualify well before I make any predictions. If there is anything, I might upload a new video. New episode. But with that, I might leave it for now. I'm hoping that my co-host will be able to join me at a different date and we'll discuss other things. Hopefully, the episode will be a little bit longer. But thank you for listening in, and if you did enjoy me ranting for the last 21 and a half minutes, drop us a follow, leave a like, subscribe if you found this on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts, and we will be back hopefully soon enough to discuss more topics. Okay, thank you, and take care, everyone.